welcome to the Ratings Eventing podcast and listeners, the November edition of the British Eventing Show. And this show, we have got a very special guest who we will introduce in just a moment. It is going to be talking about producing young horses. There is obviously a lot that has been going on over the last 6 months or so in British eventing, notably the launch of the Howden Way Young Horse Academy and the Howden Way Young Horse Leagues, which are available on the BE Stats Centre, and is really about highlighting and showcasing impressive young horse performances from this season and really giving some recognition around those horses that have consistently performed and are amongst those best 5, 6, 7, 8, and even going up to 9-year-olds now in the country. We will have lots more on the Howden Way coming in future episodes of the British Eventing Show. In particular, I know recently there was the coaching day, which basically was all about standardizing what coaches are teaching and kind of giving them a platform in which to base their coaching from. As we kind of head towards the region academies and everything that leads on from that. So do keep your ears peeled as we'll go into that in a lot more detail. But this episode is all about talking to a lady who has enjoyed a brilliant year with her young horses. One of them in particular, it finished off with a podium finish at the Young Horse World Championships in Le Lion d'Angers. And I'm delighted to welcome back to the show, Sarah Bullimore.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
It is very good to have you. End of a long season. How is life at Team Bullimore?
Well, yeah, it's good. It's been a little bit of a frustrating end to the season. It was a sort of coulda, woulda, shoulda, really. Just those little annoying, nothing was disastrous, but it just could have been a little bit better. It's just been a silly pole here or, something that's just stopped you being on that, amazing results, but it's all good. Horses are all in great shape, so yeah, we feel we've built up a lot of good luck for next year.
I think that's the thing, and it just shows what a competitor you are, because you feel coulda, woulda, shoulda, but actually it finished on a podium finish at Le Lion d'Angers in the 6-year-old Young Horse World Championships, which is with the horse that we're going to talk about in a little bit more detail today, Corimiro. First of all, I mean, a brilliant season with him, came through and has topped the Power Average League for the 6-year-olds in the Howden Way Young Horse classes. Just tell us a bit about him, because he is out of Lily Corinne, your European Championship ride, the same as Coraway, and the same as, I think you've got a few out of her now. But just give us an insight into him, because it must be quite special having had one that you've bred from the very beginning.
Oh, I mean, it's amazing. It's what's so lovely. I mean, Lily went to Leon as a 7-year-old, and then Coraway went as a 6 and a 7-year-old, and now Corimiro as a 6-year-old, and hopefully he'll go back next year as a 7-year-old. But yeah, he's a lovely horse. He's very similar and yet completely different from Coraway. They all have that very confident, assertive. They'd be fairly sort of dominant characters and very happy in themselves. And that's why, there's not every 6-year-old that you would take to Leon. And I always said with him, yeah, I'd really like to take him, because he just takes everything in his stride and just looks and says, oh, look, that's fun. And he's one of those horses, when you talk about him, he makes you smile because he's such a character. I think he's got ADHD because he just never stops. I think the other horses must just be like, will you shut up? He's always just, oh, what's that? Oh, yeah, look at that. Oh, there's something going on there. He's just into everything. And, talk to me, I'm here. But yeah, he's quite a player, but he just loves to work. I mean, all of Lily's love to work, but he loves to work and loves to be trained. And, that's what sort of slightly makes it difficult in that, he's big and he's young and you don't want to overdo it. So it's been a very much a balancing act this year, sort of trying to, keep it slowly. And I mean, he did his first intermediate back in May, and, everyone was like, oh God, he's done an intermediate. And it's like, well, yes, but he is quite low mileage. It's just that you need to keep his brain occupied. Otherwise, he'll think of his own things to do, which isn't good. But, you give him something to, think about. And he's like, oh, yeah, okay, done that. So, yeah, then you're left like, well, now where? Because he's ticked that box. So, it was quite difficult sort of trying to back off and take it slowly, because then he comes out a little bit fresh and naughty. So, but yes, it is a balancing act. But no, he's got a great brain and he's such an exciting prospect for the future.
How is he in terms of stature in comparison to, because Corimiro is very diminutive, he more than makes up for it in character, but how is he in terms of, I guess, physical similarities are they half brothers?
Yes, they're different size, but yeah, he did all the growing for both of them.
Okay.
So, yeah, he's probably just over 17 hands.
Okay.
So yeah, he's a big boy, he's big and strong, and he doesn't need to learn that he's too big and strong for me, basically.
And can you remember when he was first born? Can you kind of take us back to the very beginning of his journey?
I can, yes, because he actually spent his first 24 hours actually at Rossdale's, because we always joke and say he was starved of oxygen at birth. But yeah, he was very slightly dummy full, and sort of
dummy, what's a dummy full?
When they don't suckle and just are slow to sort of stand up, and
okay,
and it wasn't a perfect birth, and it was maybe a good thing we were there. But yeah, I basically stayed up with him all night, and he was sort of trying to suckle, but not properly, and never actually really latched on, and wasn't really trying quite so hard to latch on. He was sort of half-heartedly, and the vet had sort of been out, late at night when he was actually born, and said, and basically had tubed him in the end, and just to get colostrum and such into him, and said, oh no, I think he'll be all right. Anyway, I was up all night, and I rang again first thing in the morning, so probably about 5:30, saying he's still not latching on. And anyway, came out and tubed him again, and then a couple of hours later, another vet came back to check and was like, no, this isn't working. He said, do you know what? I'd go straight to Rossdale's, because they're geared up for this. Otherwise, you're going to be hand feeding and doing for, So literally, it was amazing. Within 24 hours, there he was running around the paddock and as normal as can be. So it just took him a while to just sort of realise he'd actually been born, I think. And apparently you get the occasional one like that.
And was he an embryo, or was he out? Did Lily carry him?
No, he was an embryo. They've all been embryos. Literally, last year was the first one that Lily carried herself. So she had two herself, but all the others have all been embryo transfers.
And so how many have you got that are out of Lily Corinne now? How many sort of half brothers and sisters with you has he got?
I think this year was her 10th.
Okay.
Yeah, so no, she's been a good girl. She's been a very good girl.
She's worked hard. I can't imagine having 10 children, put it that way.
No,
Sarah.
I know. Well, she said, yeah, only the last two, so she didn't really know too much about the originals.
No. And was the plan always to keep him?
We've always said, like with Corimiro, him being the first one, we'd always said we'll keep him until, we wanted to take him to Leon. And so we always said, yeah, we'll keep him until Leon, and then see what happens. And then he just kept going and going. And he wasn't the most straightforward. So I did sort of think, yeah, actually, if I sell him, someone will probably just give him back, because he's just quite cheeky. This one, I actually have a lovely owner who they were looking for a horse at the beginning of the year, and actually they bought into him. So his future is now safe. So, that's the problem. You can't afford to run and keep them all. And I mean, I've tended so far. We've kept them, we've backed them, and we've done a bit, and sort of got the groundings in place, if you like, and then if they, depending on where they're heading, and some might be suited. I mean, like the second born one was more of a sort of junior type, and so she went to a young girl. And it's horses for courses, isn't it? But it's getting them that grounding and initial education, and at least I know they've been started in the right way, and then they can go from there. But he was fun to produce as a young horse, and I suppose he was doing his 4-year-old year in COVID time, so there wasn't an awful lot happening. And then yes, it was great. We had an owner that bought in at the right time, so then his future is safe here. So that's really lovely.
Exciting times for what might be in store over the next couple of years with him. He was third. He was on the podium at Osberton in the Young Horse Championships in the 5-year-old class last year, and then he came out absolutely firing at novice level this season. And actually, your first 2 runs of the season with him were at Lincoln and at Great Witchingham. And the second of those, he finished on an 18.3, which is an exceptional score. And actually, when we're looking at how this league is calculated in terms of the power average, so that is the 3 best finishing scores from all 2022 B competitions, novice 2-star, short and long, for the 6-year-olds. That 18.3 actually got a real weapon in your locker fairly early on. How impressed were you with him at that stage of the season?
Well, yeah, I remember thinking at the time, so, we're kind of at the end of March, and what do I do with him now? He's come out and done a couple of novices, and we've just finished basically on an 18. And I thought, well, maybe I can give him a week quiet, week easy. He wasn't running for, a couple of weeks or whatever, and we were busy. So I thought, I'll just give him a week quiet. Well, then he came out like a raging bull. Okay. And I thought, yeah, I think I'm gonna get depth here. So yeah, you kind of think, well, okay, yeah, where do we go from here? But that's just him. He comes out and he really wants to do the right thing. He enjoys everything he does. Everything he's got a big smile on his face when he's doing it, and yeah, it's everything is just fun. It's just keeping that fun aspect without him working himself too hard. So yeah, we did back off him for a few weeks and just sort of quietly keep him ticking over, and then picked him up and been trying to sort of pick him up and drop him. But yeah, I mean, that's why basically he went intermediate sort of quite so early in the year. What else does he do? He's ticked all these boxes and just said, yep, okay, I've got that. Everything's matter of fact. He doesn't bother about anything.
He just cracks on. I've got a fun fact for you. So his international victory at Bergam, at the Hambro Sport Horses Bergam International in July, he won the 2-star there, which is always a pretty competitive class. The internationals up at Bergam usually have huge entries. And you had a very successful weekend there as well. I think you had a couple on the podium in different classes in the 4-stars as well. And every time we were doing a prize giving, it was kind of Sarah's back again. But he has given you, or together, you have got your best ever international finishing score. And that was 22.2, all levels, all horses. You've ridden some great horses, but actually that is the best score you've ever finished on at international level.
Wow. Okay. Well, and I think there's more to come from him too.
Everybody else is quaking in their boots at that prospect, because a 22.2 finishing score is pretty damn special. And I actually remember talking to a couple of members of the ground jury in the 2-star, and we were chatting at the end of the day as to sort of, who they'd seen in their different sections and this, that and the other. And a couple of them were just like, oh my goodness, Sarah Bullimore's horse is unreal. And I think he was way out in front that day, if memory serves me correctly, and sort of comfortably in the lead after the first phase. And then he stuck on it. He added nothing to a dressage score and finished on it. Oh, and what about the sort of the road to Le Lion d'Angers, because the Young Horse World Championships? We'll talk about sort of the performance and what it is like at those Young Horse World Championships. But in terms of going as a 6-year-old, I think you said a little bit earlier on, it's not something that is for every 6-year-old, but it's also pretty competitive from a British perspective because, you know, we see a lot of very nice young horses in this country. And actually, I think there's only ever about 3 places for the 6-year-old class. So it's not a straightforward thing to even be selected for.
No, exactly. It's always tough to go as a 6-year-old. And, you know, I feel you do need a special type of 6-year-old. I mean, you could easily, if you had a slightly nervous, you know, tense or hot worrier or something, you could easily, very, very easily send them the wrong way. You know, and Lyon is a massive atmosphere and, you know, the crowds are huge and just, yeah, you know, you're in that arena and they're all cheering and loud music and even just cross country, just the crowd are leaning and shouting and waving their arms and streams of people either side of the string that you've got to pass through. So if you've got one that is sort of slightly upset by that type of thing, you could very easily turn them the wrong way and make them quite hot the next year. But I just knew with Corimiro, he always sort of looks and goes, "Oh, that's nice." So I always figured he'd cope with that sort of thing. And with Coraway as well, you know, he's so cocky that, you know, he would cope. I mean, he copes with it in a very different way, you know, and he'd still get a little bit excited with it, but he'd show off to it and it wouldn't worry him. Whereas Corimiro is just, he'll look and go, "Oh, look, are they for me? Oh, okay," and think nothing of it and just, you know, carry on with what he's doing. But yeah, you could very easily send one the wrong way. But the preparation to go we started sort of, well, I mean, as I say, he did his intermediate quite early, but then because he was ready for it, then he got that under his belt and we have to do a short 2-star for our qualification. So I thought, well, I did think I'd get that out of the way early. And so I entered at Rockingham in May, where we did a beautiful dressage again. And then it was a sack the jockey moment.
Is this the moment that did you miss a fence? Or
yes, basically, yes, I jumped the wrong fence. And yes, in my defence, it was a very wiggly show jumping round and there was a sort of circle with a fence and he was jumping so beautifully and I was obviously having such a lovely time that I kind of looked up and couldn't remember what number fence I was at. And I should have actually turned left and jumped another fence, but there was a fence in front of me and I was like, well, it must be that one. And then I jumped it and thought, no, it wasn't that one, was it? And there was a big ring of the bell and yes, sadly that's elimination. I was like, oh, whoops. So yeah, that wasn't a good day because I did let him down that day. Poor boy.
Is one of those moments, listeners, everybody is thinking, oh, thank God, it's not just me that's done that. Or, you know, it's like when you're going up the centre line, you're going left, right, 50-50 shot. Don't know which one's going to work, but it's 50-50 toss of the coin. Yeah, even the pros do it, listeners. It's fine. I guess from looking to 2023, what is the plan going into next year with him?
Basically, you know, he's ticked a lot of boxes this year. So as a 7-year-old, I mean, basically his aim would be Lyon at the end of next year. So I won't be in a huge rush at the beginning of the year to get out and be cracking on. I mean, he'll come back up into work. You know, he'll have a good holiday now, and then we'll bring him back up into work and just basically working on his way of going and his strengths and just building him up for the future. But I won't be thinking of doing a long format in the spring. He'll just aim to get his qualifications. I think he will need to do a short 3 in order to go to Lyon for next year and just basically, you know, keeping up the good form, and aim for that at the end of the year.
And Leon this year was a kind of a case of so near yet so far. Would that be fair to say? Because actually a podium finish, he had a better placing than both his mum and his half-brother. They both had very successful Lilion runs as young horses, but actually he's your best placing there yet. He finished in third on the podium. I think he was third after dressage, moved up to second after cross country. And then that rail in the show jumping is I imagine, the point you referred to at the top of the show of the kind of things just haven't always fallen into place this year. But he is on the whole a very, very good jumper.
Yes, he is. And he could so easily have won on two accounts, not just, the final fence. He was good on time. He was jumping beautifully. I thought we had it, and then I heard it fall behind, and just like, how did that happen? And it's just one of those things. So that did cost him the win, but also we did make a big mistake in our dressage too. He did a beautiful, beautiful test, and he was actually trending on sort of 21, 22. And then in the Cantaloupe, for some reason, hadn't done this at all week, or in the warm-up or anywhere. And for some reason, he went down moved on to the Cantaloupe, and he seemed to do a series of one-time changes behind. So which is great for the future. And that, one-time changes won't ever be a problem, but not actually required.
I was going to say, the day that badminton or the 5 stars bring in the one-time changes, you'll be rubbing your hands together in glee. Everyone else will be sobbing in a corner.
So sadly, it dropped us 5 marks, literally that one movement. So we clawed a mark back again, but it left us in third place rather than leading the pack from the start. So that was a shame. I can't be upset with him. He was amazing all week, but when things just don't quite go your way. It's just not perfect, and it. Again, you have runs like this. Sometimes, you think you come out of a test or a show jumping round or something and think, goodness, I didn't ride that very well, but I got away with it. And, the horse jumped really well. And there's other times when you think, actually, I don't think I really did anything wrong there. And I wouldn't change how I rode it. But the end result on paper, isn't what it should be. But that's just the way it goes, and you've got to sort of keep going. And it was a little bit each week at the end of the season. It's like, okay, this week will be better. But it's just silly little things. So I figure, I've built up the good luck for next year, and we're looking forward to 2023. And
I was going to say, there's been a few moments this year that sort of feel like actually they've been testing your resolve and your resilience slightly, because things just haven't kind of fallen into place in a few different ways. And there's been some tough days at the office for you. How do you finish a season and think, okay, do you know what? There's a reason, nothing terrible has happened, but it's just been kind of things not quite going your way. How do you mentally tackle that over the winter? How do you take on the sort of the long, dark nights and the rainy days and the wet fields and everything else?
Yeah, it is tough. It's really tough. And especially because, as you say, you're going into winter. It's not like you can come out again the following week and try and make it better. But I must admit, I sort of was feeling, maybe I should have taken Coraway to Poe, and, but I kind of felt this year, do you know what, I've had enough, let's quit while we're ahead. And, he could have got a great result down there, of course might suit him, blah, 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 But then on the other hand, I could have had a silly, there were a lot of people that went that, things just didn't quite happen for them, and, a silly 20 or, that came home disappointed, and then it is tough because you've got the whole winter ahead and you've just finished on a bit of a downward note. and you've got a long, dark, wet, miserable, muddy time to think about it. But you can't dwell on it. You've just got to think, okay, that's, 2022 is done, and we move on. Horses have a break, and we come up fresh and ready, and to turn that around. And as I say, I feel we've built up a lot of good luck for 2023. So we're looking forward to coming out and proving and getting it, getting everything right, each face, all at one event, all right, at the same place, with the same horse.
It will be so much sweeter when it happens.
Exactly.
What does 2023 look like for you in terms of the wider team? Because you've got some really nice young horses coming through, Corimiro, of course, being a prime example of that. You've got Corimiro Way up at the top level. So what does next year look like for you in terms of your string?
Well, yeah, I haven't totally decided with Corimiro Way yet. So I thought we'll see how he comes up, and I'm hoping next year he'll be a little bit more rideable and have a little bit more sort of the discipline in place. He's had a little bit of a cocky year, and but I mean he's been amazing and yet frustrating. Yeah, he's still. I mean, he's an amazing little horse, and so we'll see whether he goes to Badminton. That's probably the plan at the moment. But yeah, I haven't sort of set anything in stone. We've got a couple of younger horses that did their first 4-star long at Buccalo, and they'd aim for Bramham. They'd be up for that now, and they're exciting young prospects for the future moving forward. The old Rev de Rouet has finally retired from top level, so we've got a little bit of a gap in the yard at the moment. So we've got space to take on the odd new ride, and yeah, we've just got a nice bunch that are just moving sort of slowly up the grade, and yeah, the next year or two should be very exciting. I mean, certainly Corimiro, yes, no big pressures on him for next year, but we'll just quietly aim for Leon at the end of the year. And we have another lovely mare, which sadly she should have gone to Leon for the 7-year-olds, but actually not managed to knock herself at Osberton. And nice young mare. It's not worth the risk. So she'll come out, and so obviously she'll still need to do a 3-star long, and then see where that takes her, and basically play it by ear. And the horses tell you how fast they're ready to sort of move on and do.
Watch this space. Exciting that there is space in your stable, but I cannot believe I can't gloss over the Rev de Rouet news, because he has just been the biggest sort of stalwart at top level eventing, and I think we probably need to do a whole show just on him, because he has just been extraordinary, and he has been unbelievably consistent, but has been a real labour of love as well, because hasn't always been the easiest.
No, he's a tricky character, but yeah, he's been amazing, and I think it's really sort of thrown me that he's been there 5-star for so long, and he's 18 now, so there was always going to come a point where whenever that was. And but it's just weird. He's been tough and sound, and I mean he's never taken a lame step in his life. And what we just decided he perhaps he was aiming for Burley, and then when we started upping his canter work, I just thought he just looks he's just looking more his age. And I said, we're not in it to kill him, basically. He doesn't need to go and do it, and he didn't need to go and be an also ran. If he was going to go, he was going to be competitive. And, he is tricky in his mind and keeping his head right, that he does take quite a bit of work and just not so much actual physical work, but just, mentally keeping him right, and just keeping him used to crowds and things like that. I mean, being back at Badminton in the spring was just weird. It was like, because of COVID, COVID, that's the thing that's really finished him off, to be fair, because he had 2 years of just not doing it. And he missed it. That was the funny thing, because I'd always said, he is terrified of crowds, and genuinely, but actually, then when he wasn't going, he missed it. So it's like, okay, so you do actually love what you do, which is, is great. But yeah, being back at Badminton, because he hadn't seen that sort of crowd for 2 years, he was back. It was like being back in 2017 again, where he's kind of looking around, and he was amazing cross country, but he doesn't gallop, and I time wise, he was fabulous with the fences, but he spends so much time looking at the crowds that, yes, his legs are going as fast, but actually he's going up in the air, and it feels like you're galloping sort of backwards and up and up and back at you, rather than actually along the ground and travelling. So yeah, he needs a bit of work just to keep his brain in the right way. So he was just looking a little bit older as we were upping the counter work, and so I thought, okay, that's fine. You don't need to do this. But I think mentally, suddenly, not having him at Burley, and then, I suppose that's why I'm still undecided with Coraway. Coraway was never meant to go to Burley this year, because I always said I didn't want the two of them there together. And so, in my head, it was meant to be Blue there. And, the track would have suited him, he would have cruised around that, and, found that really easy. But yeah, mentally, just he's been there for so long. It's just weird now, not having. He was always there. So yeah, I've just got to get my head around that. Actually, yeah, he's not.
He's been a massive part of your career. I mean, he's done 18 5-stars. He's come so close, and it felt like actually the last couple of years, his 3 best 5-star placings, or 3 of his 4 best 5-star placings, I should say, came in 18-19, and he just was getting better and better as he sort of, his prime years, as you say, were almost the COVID years, which unfortunately we didn't get to enjoy him at. But he's just been an extraordinary horse. What will he do now? Is he still with you, or is he going to have some fun? Or
he's here, and he's having a holiday at the moment. And then, yeah, we need to make a decision about him. I'm not sure, just sort of dropping down and doing some OIs would really, really cut it for him, or whether he, drops down to a lower level with another, young rider or someone. Don't know whether he would cope with going to a different yard.
Yeah.
So, because he is, we don't think anything of it, because I've had him since a 3-year-old, and we're used to him, and to us he's normal, but actually when you sort of take him out of that, and then he can't cope with it, and you sort of think, oh God, I didn't even think, he's normal to us, but you put him in a different environment, and or without us being there, and he doesn't cope, or he stops eating, or so I don't know. We've got to sit down, and I'll sit down with the owners, and sort of we'll have a long chat and work out. So yeah, he needs something to do, because he's not ready to just stagnate in a field,
Well, watch this space. He has been an incredible horse, and will be sadly missed at the top level. It feels like every time a 5-star entry list came out, we just all expected him to be on it, because
I know exactly. He was always there, and I mean he has been so tough and sound. I'll be very, very lucky to find another one like him. I mean he was just Iron Man. I mean, it was always joked when he was a younger horse, when, he was a little bit tricky, and, he should have perhaps, or could have won a lot more things. And then his tricky little demons would come out, and, it would be like, oh well, he'd have a moment in one phase or another. And, But yeah, he'd always sort of go to the vet or have a checkup or whatever, and they'd trot him on a concrete circle. And he'd literally just trot around long and low and loose. And it was always joked that actually, yeah, well, if there was a competition for concrete circle trotting, he'd win that house. So it's like, okay, we can win something.
Bless him. Look, Sarah, it has been lovely to hear a little bit more about him, but also fantastic to look back on this season and look forward to next season, because one of, if not on the Howden Way Young Horse Leagues, the best 6-year-old in the country is sat in your stable at home. So exciting times ahead. Congratulations on a fantastic league win, and we'll look forward to seeing what 2023 has to bring.
Thank you very much. Yes, definitely looking forward to next season.